Right, let's get going here on part 2. And I'm going to replace these items first to make sure that I've got as much room as I can have. Obviously with the alternator out the way, it gives me a little room, although that's mainly around the front of the car, whereas these are on the side. But let's see. It's always handy with these because there are 2 bolt holes that you can see, obviously, but it shows me where they are. It makes life easier. Same with these, don't forget these are different sizes. So make sure when you take one off, you get the right one back on. I've already taken one off, and let's see which one it is. You can see here, this is the one that I've taken off, and this is going to be the replacement. It's interesting that the little veins are closer together than they are on that one. I wonder if when I get to the other one we'll find out. Okay, let me see if I can get underneath and find out where this one is, because I think this is higher up and so is this. So I want to get up to them first before I put this back in, or rather, sorry, put this one in. This is viewed from the top of the engine, the big pulley in front of the screen there, that's the power steering pump. Below it you can see the other idler pulley, and that has got to come off, I believe, before you can get to the top bolt on the belt tensioner. These have to be taken out from above. You could probably take out the water bottle if you wanted to, or the coolant tank, whatever you want to call it, and swing it out the way. I'm going to try not doing that. We'll see how it goes. Do note the original bolts, they're 16mm. Now check yours before you try putting these in. These are 15mm. It depends on the kit you get, so make sure. But these are all 15, these are 16. Now let's have a look and see if I can show you the other bolt. Okay, again, this is viewed from above, so hopefully you can see this. You see that pulley there? That is the belt tensioner pulley, and the bolt to the right of the pulley is the one that's awkward to get to if this other wheel is in roller, idler is in position. And you can see above that bolt there's a hole. Well, that's where the other idler bolt goes through. Is it impossible to get to it? Probably not, but with that pulley out the way, it makes it a darn sight easier. Now I must say, although I've done this without removing the coolant tank, it would probably be easier with the coolant tank out of the way. The choice is yours. As previously mentioned, I've taken the inner wheel guard, or wing guard, whatever you want to call it, and just pulled it out of the way. I mean, you have to undo there's a bolt there and a bolt there. There should be 3 bolts, and they're 7mm. They're just bloody awkward sizes. And it has a crease in it up here, so it allows you to, it creases up here, so it allows you to flip it out of the way and just tuck it here, as I've done. Then you can see that gives you great access to getting the alternator in and out. The biggest problem is you hit this AC pipe, so just be careful, and remember when you're moving this, whilst there's rubber here, there's a joint here, and it's held firmly there, but obviously this would be better held here, but it's not, so just be careful. Then you can get to this pulley here, nice and easy. I've found that getting the belt tensioner out is easier to undo the bolts from underneath. I have a special low profile, if I can get my thing to look at it. I have a low profile wrench with very low profile sockets. So that gives me a nice little tool that's, you don't need a lot of room for it. Just like my tool. Don't need a lot of room. You used to. Stop it. Right, what else is there to show you under here? Not sure. Let's have a look up there and see what we can see. Okay, you can see there, you can see the tensioner. Hang on, let me swing this light in here. See if that makes it any better. You can see the belt tensioner, which is the pulley in the distance, and then the idler, which I've just put back on. Now, one thing to do if you've had a catastrophic failure like this customer did, and that belt was melted, it gets in these grooves of the pulleys. So clean them out. Now the engine one, of course, is very difficult because you can't really turn it unless you turn the engine over. But you can get a wire brush up there, small wire brush, and clean all that out. And the same on the compressor, the power steering pump at the top, and the water pump down here. Now, I used a spike and just spun it so that it would, it would, come on. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get the camera to focus. There we go. So, as I said, I just used a spike in the groove and then spun this by hand just to clean out all the grooves. Done the same on the top, same with the water pump, but with the crank, it was a little more difficult because I didn't want to turn the engine. Could I? Yeah, I could, but I'm not going to. Right, now, I'll do note as well, if I can show you this, but here where my finger is, that's where the alternator goes. So you can put the bolt in the alternator and then just lift it up in here and hang it over there. Makes it a little easier to put the alternator in position. What else is there to show you? Oh yes, hang on a second. Hopefully you can see that. Either side of that orange bit, there are plastic, strap downs. Then they clip over on the compressor, and it makes it very hard to get out. You have to pry up both sides. This little plastic piece here, and the same here. And they're top and bottom, so you can only see one, and the other one you just have to do it by feel. So a lot of people never tell you how to get those bloody clips out, and it took me a while to figure this one out. The other one was, I don't know if I can get to it. This is the one that's on the alternator. Hang on a second. Now, this one is from the alternator. You have to pull this red piece back and then push down on a piece. I don't know if I can show you, damn it. Where my thumb is, there's a black piece you push down on. And that moves that black piece inside. Hopefully you can see that. It moves that inside. And at the same time, you then have to pull the plug that way. It's very stiff, very awkward. But that's the way that one comes out. Yeah. The one on the back of the alternator, of course, is just a nut. And you can figure out how to do a nut. But the plastic cover here... Can you see that? Hang on, let me see. That plastic cover, that big plastic cover here, there are two tabs that you have to squeeze on either side to pull this cover off so that you can get to the nut. Now, I know when a lot of people do these videos, they don't show that kind of stuff. And it's frustrating. Oh, you just disconnect it. Well, not one fucking car's the same. I mean, even these two are different in the same bloody vehicle. They couldn't make them the same style. Do wish car manufacturers would do that. Not only is it helpful for the home mechanic, but also the dealer mechanic. Okay. So, I've got the pulleys in. I've got the other pulleys cleaned. My next task is to get the alternator in and then put the alternator bracket back on. In other words, that piece that I took off that's... Hang on, let me show you. Zip. This piece that I took off earlier, that's what the alternator bolts to. The compressor bolts to that. Don't lie to me. Is there one? Yeah. So I'm just trying to figure this out. Yeah, right. So once that's up in position, then the bolt goes through here and into that bracket. But you need that out of the way to get the alternator in. So you put the alternator in, then you put that bracket back in, then you can put the compressor back on. Holy shit. Yeah, it's all a bit of a faff. Fun, but a bit of a faff. Okay, let's get the alternator fed in and into the hole and up. But as I said, first what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the bolt through the alternator so that I can just hang it in there. All right, let's do it. Now, as I previously mentioned, this is the bolt. You can put that in before you put the alternator in. And it has one of these weird and wonderful things that the more you tighten, the more you loosen, the more it tightens, the more it loosens. And it just spins around and locks so that it's kind of easy, I guess. But there you go. So just thought I'd show you that. And for those of you that doubted the value of cleaning out the grooves, look at that mess. Eh? Yeah, that is not something that you want clagging up your brand new belt. Look at it. So all of that has to be cleaned out. Right. Is there anything else to show you with regard to this alternator? No, the only thing I am going to show you, and I'm going to borrow it from someone else's video and stick it in next, and that's the belt routing. I will also put a link to his complete video, but I want to show you his very helpful method of figuring out how the belt should be routed. Let's do that next. Then, after that, get out in the garage, go do your shit. Okay, one other thing I did on these pulleys is I got some cellulose thinners on a brush and wiped it through as best I can. One other thing that I want to mention, if you don't have a set of millimeter ratchet wrenches, go and buy them before you start this job. Otherwise, you are going to be cursing. There is not much room here, and a ratchet spanner makes life so much easier. Okay, before I hit play on this, I just want to say that this is copied from someone else's video, and there will be a link in the description to his complete video. It is very helpful, and this part in particular. So rather than me repeat what he's done, I thought I'd just show you how he did it, and then you can take it from there. So let's go.
After, with my right hand, I pulled the rod upwards to position the upper section of the belt near the power steering pump pulley. Because of the engine configuration, I found it easier to begin the routing installation with the power steering pump pulley. To make sure the belt would not get out of this pulley during the routing procedure, I used a small plastic clamp to hold it in place. To continue the installation, I went under the vehicle and I routed the belt between the pulleys number 8 and number 9. Note, the space to work was quite small and there was not a lot of room to move my hands. After some wiggling, the belt was fitted around the water pump pulley number 7. When it was properly seated in the grooves, I continued around the pulley number 8, and after, I maneuvered the belt to fit it around the pulley number 6. I completed the forward installation with the routing around the pulleys number 5 and number 3. Before fitting the belt on the last pulley, I used a small weight on the lower section of the belt to keep it in place while I was removing the small clamp previously installed on the power steering pulley. The belt was well positioned and I was ready to complete the installation. I removed the weight and I used the wrench to retract the belt tensioner. I rotated the tensioner adjusting bolt around 90 degrees counterclockwise to get enough slack to be able to fit the belt around the last pulley. After, when it was well seated, I slowly released the tension and I took off the wrench from the tensioner. The belt seemed well installed, but I made another inspection to see if there was anything to adjust before putting back the coolant reservoir in place.
There you go. That, I think, was extremely helpful. Gives you the belt diagram there, but his method of putting it on, I think, is really rather good. It is probably the method I would have used, but this really makes it easy for me rather than, oh dear, I put it on the wrong way, which does happen sometimes. So thank you to this particular gentleman. I will put his name here in a second, or at least his YouTube name. And also, as I mentioned, I will put a link to this video in the description. Now it really is time to get out in that garage and do some shit.